Let me speak to the one who's still wide awake at 3 a.m., replaying conversations, overanalyzing actions, stuck between missing someone and hating what they did to you. To the one who gave everything, your time, your love, your energy, only to be drained, manipulated, and left feeling empty. I see you, and I need you to hear me when I say, you did not deserve the pain, but you do deserve the healing. You've cried behind closed doors, smiled in front of crowds, and carried a heart so heavy it nearly broke your spirit. But you're still here. And that means something. That means your story isn't over. That means your heart is still beating. Because it refuses to give up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. It's time. Time to let go of the memories that only bring you pain. Time to move on from the person who never saw your worth. And time to finally heal the wounds they left behind, because your future cannot be built on the rubble of your past. And you are not meant to live stuck in survival mode. You are meant to thrive, to rise, to start again. You keep looking back like it was something beautiful. You remember the laughs, the late night talks, the way they held your hand and made you feel like the only person in the world. But baby, you're only looking at the highlight reel. You're forgetting the days you cried yourself to sleep, the way your stomach twisted every time they made you feel like a burden. You're forgetting the lies, the manipulation, the emotional warfare you had to survive. That wasn't love. That was control wrapped in the disguise of affection. But the heart has a funny way of editing memories, turning nightmares into dreams just because we missed the comfort of what once felt familiar. You've got to stop dressing up your pain in pretty colors. You've got to stop telling yourself it was love when it was survival. Because healing starts when honesty begins, and honesty says, it wasn't as good as you keep trying to remember it. It was breaking you piece by piece. And you kept calling it passion. Let the truth set you free, not the fantasy you created to cope. They didn't change. They just changed how they treated you. You keep holding on to the version of them that showed up in the beginning, the sweet words, the thoughtful gestures, the way they made you feel seen. But all of that was a performance. And they knew exactly what they were doing. See, a person doesn't suddenly go cold without reason. They were never warm to begin with. They just wore a mask long enough to make you fall. And when you did, they dropped it, knowing you were too deep in to walk away. That's not love. That's manipulation. Stop thinking you can get back to the old them. The old them never existed. You weren't in love with a person. You were in love with a character they played to get what they wanted. And the hardest part to swallow is this. You were loyal to someone who only loved what you could give them. That's why you feel so hollow now, because you kept pouring into someone who never planned to pour back. And now look at you, constantly doubting your worth, questioning if you were too emotional, too sensitive, too needy. But those weren't flaws. Those were feelings. Real, raw, human feelings that deserve to be met with empathy, not judgment. You weren't too much. They were just too little to handle someone who loves deeply. And they made you feel guilty for having a heart that feels everything. That's the trauma speaking. That's the voice of someone who conditioned you to suppress yourself so they could shine. And now that they're gone, you still carry their voice in your mind, second guessing every emotion you have. Let me tell you something real. Their inability to love you had nothing to do with your ability to be loved. Don't let their mistreatment become your mirror. Don't let their silence become your self-talk. You are not the problem. You are just trying to love someone who didn't have the capacity to receive it. And that doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Beautifully, imperfectly. You kept holding on to potential like it was reality. You fell for what they could be, not what they consistently were. That's the danger of loving someone based on hope. You end up sacrificing your present for a future that never arrives. You saw their brokenness and thought your love could fix them. You believed your patience, your loyalty, your compassion would be enough to heal their wounds. But no amount of love can save someone who doesn't want to be saved. And in trying to be their hero, you became their collateral damage. Every time you excused their behavior with, they're just going through something, you silenced your own needs. Every time you said they didn't mean it, you dismissed the pain that was eating you alive. And now you're left with the scars while they walk away unbothered. That's what happens when you invest in someone's potential but ignore their pattern. You were building a fantasy while they were dismantling your peace. And now it's time to see it for what it was, not what you hoped it would be. You know what's cruel? How they gave you just enough to stay, but never enough to feel safe. One day they'd be affectionate, the next they'd withdraw. One moment they promised the world, the next they'd disappear. That inconsistency became your normal. And somewhere along the way, you started confusing instability with passion. You started believing that the emotional roller coaster was a sign of deep love, not dysfunction. But real love doesn't feel like anxiety. It doesn't make you question where you stand. It doesn't make you feel like you're begging for crumbs when you deserve the whole feast. You became addicted to the chaos because it mirrored something deep inside you. Maybe something you saw in childhood, maybe something you were taught to accept. But you deserve better than emotional whiplash. You deserve consistency, presence, peace. So stop looking back like you lost something rare. What you lost was confusion dressed as chemistry. What you let go of was a storm that never let you breathe. And what you're walking toward is clarity. Let that be enough. You weren't asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. You wanted honesty, loyalty, communication, the basics. But they made you feel like your standards were unrealistic. They convinced you that you were hard to love. But that was projection. They didn't want to rise to the level you deserved, so they tried to bring you down to the level they were comfortable with. They wanted you silent, small, independent. Because the moment you realized your power, you'd outgrow them. And that terrified them, so they kept you second-guessing yourself. They made you feel like love had to hurt to be real, that the best you could hope for was at least they didn't leave. But let me tell you something. Survival is not love. Enduring pain is not a badge of honor. And relationships are not meant to be endurance tests. You don't have to shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. You don't have to abandon yourself to be chosen. The right person will meet you where you are and rise with you. Not belittle you, not break you, not betray you. And maybe part of you is still waiting for them to come back, to apologize, to finally say the words you needed to hear. But don't you see, that's another trap. You're holding your healing hostage, waiting for closure that may never come. They're not losing sleep over what they did to you, so why are you losing sleep over someone who couldn't even give you decency? Let this be your closure. Let the truth be loud enough. Someone who loves you doesn't treat you like you're disposable. Someone who respects you doesn't disappear when things get hard. You don't need their validation to move on. You don't need their permission to heal. The chapter is closed, even if they never say goodbye. And the longer you wait for them to make it right, the longer you delay your freedom. You don't need their words. You need your decision. Choose yourself. Choose your peace. Choose to stop looking for healing in the same place that hurt you. You gave them the best parts of you, your loyalty, your time, your energy, and they treated it like it was nothing. That kind of betrayal cuts deep. It makes you question whether giving is worth it. But don't let their inability to receive love change the way you love. You didn't lose because you cared. You didn't fail because you tried. That's your strength. That's what sets you apart. They may have walked away with your effort, but they'll never find that kind of depth again. And you're still capable of love, still capable of kindness. You just need to give it to someone who values it. But most importantly, start by giving it to yourself. Be as kind to yourself as you were to them. Be as patient with your healing as you were with their damage. You are not less worthy because they couldn't see it. Their blindness is not your burden to carry. You were never too much. They were just not enough. And one day, you'll see this not as rejection, but as redirection to something real, to something whole. Sometimes we hold on not because we're in love, but because we're afraid of starting over. The thought of being alone terrifies us, so we settle for someone who breaks us slowly. But what you have to understand is this. Loneliness is not the enemy. Staying in a place that kills your spirit is. Starting over is scary, but staying broken is worse. You've already survived the worst part, being with someone who didn't see your value. Now comes the hard part. Choosing to see it for yourself. Choosing to wake up every day and remind yourself, I am not defined by who hurt me. I am not a reflection of their mistreatment. I am worthy of more. You can love again, trust again, smile again. But first, you have to walk away, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Walk away from the illusion, from the lie that this is all you'll ever have. Because there's a version of life waiting for you that feels like peace, not pressure. And you deserve to know what that feels like. And I know part of you still blames yourself. You wonder what you could have done differently, how you could have made them stay. But let me tell you the truth you've been avoiding. It wasn't your job to fix someone who wasn't ready to be whole. You gave everything and they gave you just enough to keep you hooked. That's not love. That's manipulation. And now, every time you replay the story, you twist the pain into romance. You make excuses. You call it passion, but it wasn't passion, it was trauma bonding. And that's why it's so hard to let go. Because somewhere deep inside, your mind learned to call chaos home. But you're not broken, you're healing. You're waking up to the truth, and with every tear, every sleepless night, you're unlearning what you thought was love. One day you'll look back and thank yourself for having the courage to walk away from the illusion. But today, just take one step away from the fantasy, toward the truth, because the truth will set you free, even if it hurts. Pain has a way of speaking to us when nothing else can. It breaks through the noise, grabs your heart, and forces you to listen. You didn't ask for it. You didn't deserve it. But it came anyway, in the form of betrayal, heartbreak, loss, failure. And I know it feels unfair. Feels like life just threw you into the fire and walked away. But listen to me closely. There's purpose in that fire. It's refining you, burning away everything that isn't meant for where you're going. See, pain doesn't show up to destroy you. It shows up to prepare you. It shows up to reveal the truth, to uncover strength you didn't know you had, to wake you up. So don't curse the pain. Don't waste it. Let it teach you. Let it change you. Let it build something inside you that comfort never could, because pain is a teacher that comfort could never match. And if you walk through it with your eyes open, you'll come out of it with wisdom no textbook can offer. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Understand it. And when it finally passes, let it make you better, not bitter. You keep asking, why me? But maybe the question should be, what is this trying to teach me? Because life doesn't waste pain. It doesn't allow you to suffer without planting something deep inside of you, a seed. And that seed, that's your power, that's your story, that's your growth. I know you didn't choose the heartbreak. I know you didn't sign up for the disappointment. But sometimes the things that hurt us the most become the very things that awaken the fire in us. The things that hurt you shaped you. They carved character, carved wisdom, carved perspective. Without the pain, you'd still be asleep. You'd still be living in the shallow end of life, avoiding the deep water where transformation lives. But now you see things differently. You speak with more depth. You move with more intention. And that didn't come from easy days. That came from walking through hell and choosing not to stay there. Don't let your suffering be meaningless. If it broke you, then let it also build you. Let it give birth to a version of you that wouldn't have existed otherwise. I know what it's like to feel like the pain will never end. To wake up every day carrying something invisible that no one else can see. You smile, but your heart is heavy. You go through the motions, but you're bleeding inside. And people say, just move on. Not knowing that moving on isn't a switch. It's a war. A war with your own thoughts, your own doubts, your own memories. But I want you to understand something. Healing is not linear. Some days you'll feel okay. Other days you'll feel like you're drowning. And that's all right. Because healing isn't about pretending it didn't happen. It's about learning how to live with what happened without letting it define you. You're allowed to feel it all. The grief, the anger, the confusion. Feel it, but don't live there. Take what you need from the pain and then rise. Use it as fuel. Use it as foundation. Because one day you'll look back and realize that pain wasn't your end. It was your beginning. The very thing that broke you also woke you up. You see, some people use pain as a prison. Others use it as a platform. And that's the choice in front of you. Are you going to stay stuck in the narrative of what hurt you? Or are you going to let that pain elevate you into your purpose? You've got a story now. You've got experience now. You've got survival in your bones. That means something. That carries weight. Don't keep that to yourself. Share it. Live it. Let others know they're not alone. The pain you endured can become the light for someone else's darkness. Don't underestimate that. What you went through, as unfair as it was, can be the very thing that gives someone else hope. Don't let it die with you. Don't let your scars be silent. Turn them into wisdom. Turn them into purpose. Let every tear you cried water something meaningful. Because if you're going to suffer, at least let the suffering serve a purpose greater than the pain itself. That's how you honor what you went through, by not wasting it, by making it matter. There's a strength in you now that wasn't there before, a depth, a fire. Because pain doesn't just break things. It builds things too. It builds patience, builds perspective, builds resilience. The kind of resilience that can't be taught, only earned. The kind that makes you walk into storms differently, not scared but prepared, not hopeless but humble. You're not the same person who entered the fire, and you shouldn't be. Because pain, when faced with courage, transforms. It changes your priorities, changes how you love, changes what you tolerate. You stop chasing validation. Stop begging people to see your worth, because now you know what you've survived. You know what you've overcome. You stop looking outward for approval and start looking inward for peace. That's what pain does. It strips away the lies and reveals the truth. And the truth is, you are stronger, wiser, and more capable than you've ever given yourself credit for. That didn't come from comfort. That came from the fire. That came from walking through the storm and refusing to let it drown you. There's a lie that pain whispers in your ear. This will never get better. And if you're not careful, you'll start to believe it. You'll start to build a life around survival instead of joy. But let me tell you, it does get better. Slowly, quietly, one brave breath at a time, not all at once, but day by day. You won't always feel like this. You won't always hurt like this. And I know it's hard to believe that when you're in the middle of the storm, but healing is happening even when you can't see it. Your strength is growing even when you feel weak. You're moving forward even when all you can do is crawl. You're building something inside that will serve you for the rest of your life. You just have to keep going, keep breathing, keep choosing to live even when you don't feel like it. Because the other side of pain is purpose, and it's waiting for you. But you've got to walk through the valley before you reach the mountain. Don't stop in the middle, keep going. Your pain has been molding you for the moment you haven't even met yet. It's preparing you for people you haven't even encountered. See, when you carry pain with intention, you become someone others can trust, someone others can lean on, because you've been there. You know what it feels like to break and build yourself back. And that gives you wisdom. That gives you compassion. That gives you a voice this world desperately needs. You are not just another face in the crowd. You are a survivor with a story. Don't bury that. Don't silence that. Use it. Build something with it. Whether it's art, a business, a ministry, a movement. Whatever it is, let your pain be the blueprint, not the roadblock. Let it remind you that even the worst chapters of your life can birth something powerful, something eternal. Don't sit in the ashes when you're called to rise. You've got more to live for than what you lost. Your purpose didn't die in your pain. It was born in it. Pick it up. Walk with it. Speak it loud. Too many people numb their pain, avoid it, escape it, but what you avoid will eventually control you. What you bury will one day rise, and not on your terms. So feel it now, face it now, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You can't outrun what you refuse to confront. And every time you turn away from your pain, you turn away from your power, because your healing is hiding inside your honesty. You've got to name what hurt you, call it out, own it, and then declare that it will not define you. You're not what they did to you. You're not the mistake you made. You're not the rejection, the failure, the betrayal. You are the person who kept going. You are the person who rose. And there's something sacred about that, something unshakable. So stop apologizing for your scars. Stop hiding your struggle. Your pain is not shameful. It's your proof. Proof that you endured. Proof that you lived. Proof that you're still here. And if you're still here, it means your purpose is too. Everything you've been through, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every sleepless night, it wasn't random. It wasn't wasted. It was building you. And I know that sounds cliche until you finally live long enough to see it. Until you look back and realize that the pain that almost ended you also awakened you. That without it, you'd still be tolerating less than you deserve. Still walking in circles, still blind to your value. But now you see things for what they are. Now you understand what matters. Pain didn't just hurt you. It sharpened you. Gave you focus, gave you clarity. You're more intentional now, more aware, more real. And that's not just growth, that's grace. The kind of grace that only comes after the breaking. So stand tall, walk forward. With every scar, with every lesson, with every ounce of truth the pain taught you, because your pain has a purpose. And it's time to let it speak. There comes a moment in life when you're holding on to something so tight that it's choking the joy out of you. You carry the weight of betrayal, the sting of words that never should have been said, the wound from someone you trusted. You replay it over and over again. Not because you want to, but because you don't know how to let it go. You think by holding on to that pain, you're protecting yourself, but you're not. You're reliving a war that already ended, and it's killing your peace. Forgiveness, it's not about forgetting what they did. It's not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about choosing to take your power back, because as long as you carry that resentment, they still control you. They still own a piece of your heart. But the day you forgive, not for them, but for you, that's the day you get free. Not weak, not soft, free. And sometimes the most powerful thing you'll ever do is whisper to yourself, I deserve peace more than I deserve revenge. That's real strength. That's freedom. That's what forgiveness is all about. You're not weak because you're tired of carrying hate. You're not a fool for wanting to be free. Too many people mistake forgiveness for approval. But let me tell you something. Forgiveness doesn't mean what they did was okay. It means you are okay with not carrying it anymore. You're allowed to let go of the bitterness without reconciling with the person who broke you. You can close the chapter without inviting the villain back into the story. Forgiveness is the release of you, not the rescue of them. You don't owe anyone access to your life just because you forgave them. Boundaries still stand, distance still matters. But your heart, it deserves rest. It deserves to breathe again. You don't heal by rewinding the hurt every day. You heal by choosing to break the cycle, to put the pain down and say, this ends with me. You weren't made to carry a grudge through life like a badge of honor. You were made to live light, to live free. And you can't do that with a heart full of poison. Some of y'all are angry and don't even remember who you're angry at. You've carried pain for so long it became your personality. You walk around guarded, cold, hard, thinking it's strength. But it's not strength to be numb. It's not strength to live bitter. It's survival. And I get it, you had to survive, but at some point, survival has to give way to healing. You deserve to live more than you deserve to hurt. But you've got to make that choice. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's waking up and saying, I'm not giving this pain one more day of my life. You may not forget. You may still feel the sting sometimes, but you don't feed it anymore. You don't give it a seat at your table. You reclaim your joy, your peace, your future. You break the cycle, not for them, but for you, because the truth is, while you're still angry, they've already moved on. While you're stuck in yesterday, they're living today. Don't stay trapped in a prison they don't even know you're in. Bitterness will lie to you. It'll tell you you're safe, you're strong, you're in control. But the only thing it's doing is building a cage around your spirit. You think unforgiveness is power, but really, it's a prison. It keeps you stuck, keeps you hard, keeps you from loving again. And maybe that's the scariest part, not the pain, but the idea of being vulnerable again. But hear me, you don't heal by staying hard. You heal by choosing softness even after pain, by choosing to love again, trust again, believe again, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You deserve a life that's not controlled by the people who hurt you. You deserve a heart that's not weighed down by ghosts. And that only happens when you decide to open the cell and walk out. Forgiveness is your exit. It's the moment you say, you no longer have power over me, not with your words, but with your peace, with your freedom. And that kind of strength, that's unshakable. I know they broke you. I know they never apologized. I know they got away with it and the world kept turning like your heart didn't stop. And you're still standing in the rubble wondering how to rebuild with pieces they shattered. But here's the truth. They may never say sorry. They may never own what they did. And you've got to learn to heal anyway. That's what forgiveness is. It's refusing to let someone else's lack of accountability become your endless suffering. It's choosing to say, even if you never fix it, I will. That's courage. That's spiritual maturity. And it takes guts. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you're tired of being weighed down. Because your destiny is too important to let a grudge become your God. There's too much life ahead of you to stay anchored to the past. You can't reach the next level with hands full of yesterday's pain. Let it go. Let it go so you can rise. Don't let the world fool you into thinking that holding on to hate makes you strong. Anybody can hate. Anybody can stay angry. But forgiveness, that takes strength. That takes faith. That takes a heart willing to choose healing over revenge. It's easy to clap back, easy to cut people off, easy to stay bitter, but it takes real power to say, I release you. Even if they never say thank you. Even if they never change. Even if they never understand what they did. You're not forgiving them to restore the relationship. You're forgiving them to restore yourself. To clear the fog from your mind, to free the weight on your chest. To breathe again. Some people say, I'll forgive when they apologize. But what if they never do? Does your healing have to wait for their humility? No, it doesn't. Your peace is your responsibility, not theirs. Don't give someone else the keys to your freedom. Take it back. Let's be honest. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. You've been replaying mistakes you made, conversations you wished you handled differently, people you should have walked away from sooner. And you're carrying that guilt like a second skin. But listen, you did the best you could with what you knew at the time. You made decisions from a place of love or fear or survival. And that version of you, they don't need punishment. They need grace. Forgiving yourself is the foundation of all forgiveness. Because you can't give grace to others while you're starving for it yourself. So start there. Start with you. Speak to your own heart like you would to a friend. I forgive you. I release you. I'm proud of you for surviving. That's not weakness. That's the most sacred kind of power, the kind that rebuilds you from the inside out. And once you start treating yourself with mercy, forgiveness for others will come easier. Because you'll realize we're all just human. Trying, failing, learning. When you hold on to unforgiveness, you're not protecting yourself, you're punishing yourself. You wake up with the same heaviness, you walk through life with a guarded heart, and joy becomes a stranger. You're breathing, but you're not alive. You're surviving, but you're not free. Forgiveness is how you cross that line. It's how you tell your soul, I'm done living like this. You're not letting anyone off the hook. You're choosing peace. And let me tell you something, peace is the highest revenge. Peace is proof that they didn't win, that they didn't get to steal your purpose, your spirit, your light. Let them wonder how you're smiling again. Let them wonder how you're thriving after what they did. That's forgiveness. That's freedom. And nobody can take that from you once you choose it. So when the anger comes up, and it will, don't fight it, but don't feed it either. Remind yourself, I'm not doing this for them. I'm doing this for me, for my future, for my peace. That's how you shift the power. You're no longer reacting from pain, you're responding from purpose. And that's the real gift of forgiveness. It doesn't change the past. It doesn't undo what they did. But it changes you. And that's what matters most. You weren't meant to live stuck. You weren't meant to carry the weight of every wrong done to you. You were meant to rise, to walk in freedom. And that starts with forgiveness. Quietly, powerfully, from within, one decision at a time. Not for them, but for you. Some people don't need another goodbye text. They don't need a final phone call or closure over coffee. They don't need another explanation, apology, or second chance. What they need is to lose access to you. Because cutting off contact without cutting off access is like locking your front door but leaving the back wide open. They still show up in your energy, in your thoughts, in your heart. They still manipulate, still drain, still control the direction of your peace without even saying a word. You say you've blocked them, but deep down you're still hoping they find a way in. That's not closure. That's emotional addiction. And until you decide that their season in your life is over, not paused, not pending, over, you will stay stuck in a cycle where they take and you give. They lie and you forgive. They disappear and you wait. But peace doesn't come from temporary silence. Peace comes when you say, you no longer have the right to reach me. Not physically, not emotionally, not spiritually. That's the kind of strength that sets you free. You have to stop mistaking silence for distance. Just because they're not calling doesn't mean they're gone. Some people live inside your head even after they've walked out of your life. And that's where the real work begins. Cutting off access means going deeper than the surface. It means blocking them from your mind, your prayers, your memories, and yes, sometimes even your hopes. You've got to remove the soul tie, not just the phone number. Because if they can still control your mood, still change your energy with one post, one thought, one song, they still have access. And if they still have access, you haven't healed. You've only paused the pain. You're not free, you're just on hold. But you don't need temporary relief, you need total release. You need to wake up and say, I refuse to keep giving access to someone who only came into my life to take. That's not cold, that's clarity. Stop checking their page. Stop asking mutual friends. Stop hoping they noticed your silence. The silence wasn't for them, it was for you. It was supposed to be your peace, not your punishment. Every time you peek back into their world, you reopen a wound that was finally starting to close. You're not doing yourself any favors by pretending you've moved on while still emotionally looking over your shoulder. You don't just need to walk away. You need to close the door and lock it. You need to seal off the escape routes they use to crawl back in when they get bored or lonely or need a little ego boost. You've got to value your heart enough to make it unavailable to those who only show up when it's convenient. Because when you leave the door cracked, even a whisper of them can blow your peace wide open. Don't let them in. Don't let them linger. Cut off access. Too many people confuse disconnection with disinterest. You think that just because you don't respond, you're protecting your energy. But protection without boundaries is an illusion. Real boundaries don't just stop a call, they stop the cycle. They stop the emotional dependence. They stop the thought patterns that have you romanticizing pain and calling it love. The truth is, they didn't change, you just got tired. And now that you're tired, it's time to get wise. Because you can't heal in the same atmosphere that hurt you. You can't grow when you keep watering a relationship that was built on manipulation. Some connections were never love, they were control, disguised as care. The moment you realized that was the moment you were given a choice. Stay accessible to your own destruction or rise into your own protection. You already know the answer. They don't need to know how you're doing. They don't need to check in. They lost that privilege the day they stopped treating your heart like it mattered. And let's be clear, access is not about physical presence. It's about influence. Do they still influence your thoughts, your habits, your happiness? If so, they're still too close. And if you want to change your life, you've got to change what you allow near your soul. That means muting memories that keep you stuck. That means cutting emotional ties that feel comfortable but keep you broken. You can't ask God to send peace while you're still leaving space for chaos. Make room. Clear the clutter. Some people have been in your life so long they feel like furniture. But even old furniture needs to go if it no longer fits your future. You're not being harsh. You're being healed. Listen, you don't need permission to protect your peace. You don't need agreement to end the cycle. Not everyone will understand why you chose to cut off access. Some will call you selfish. Some will call you cold. But those are the same people who had full access to you and still broke you. Their opinions don't matter anymore. This isn't about revenge. It's about release. You're not shutting them out to hurt them. You're closing the door to heal you. Because the same open heart that welcomed love became the same door pain walked through. Now it's time to guard it. Not with walls, but with wisdom. With discernment, with a standard that says if you don't bring peace, you don't get in. That's how you protect your next chapter, by controlling the access from the last one. You ever notice how the wrong people always come back when your life starts to glow again? They can smell your growth. They can feel the shift, and suddenly they remember your number, your name, your kindness. But don't be fooled. Their reappearance isn't always repentance. Sometimes it's just ego. Sometimes they just want to see if they still have influence. Don't open the door to test them. You already know who they are. The question is, do you know who you are now? Are you strong enough to say that chapter is closed? Are you healed enough to say, I remember how it felt to lose myself loving you and I'm never going back? Because real healing is when their name no longer stirs chaos. When your soul stays calm even when their presence tries to return. That's how you know you've finally taken your power back. You can't walk into your purpose dragging people who are assigned to your pain. Some of them were only part of the lesson, not the legacy. And if you confuse the two, you'll build your future with broken bricks. It's time to clean house. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to expose them. You just have to remove them. From your contacts, from your conversations, from your emotional atmosphere. This isn't bitterness. It's survival. You've spent enough nights crying over people who only cared when they felt like it. Enough days doubting your worth because someone else was too blind to see it. No more. Today you declare peace over performance, healing over history, freedom over familiarity. And that starts with access. You don't need revenge. You need distance. And distance will give you the clarity you never had when they were close. Cutting off contact is a beginning, but cutting off access is the breakthrough. That's where real healing starts. When you stop entertaining the ghost of who they were. When you stop hoping they'll become the version you created in your head. When you look in the mirror and realize, I don't need closure from them. I need commitment to me. I need to stop bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand me a bandage. You're not a second chance. You're not a maybe. You're not a let's see. You are the gift they mishandled. And now that gift is unavailable. Access denied. Peace secured. Heart protected. Before the pain, before the betrayal, before the tears that wouldn't stop, there was someone else. Someone who laughed without hesitation, who trusted without fear, who dreamed without limits. That version of you wasn't naive. That version of you was pure. And somehow, along the way, life dimmed that light. Not all at once, but slowly. Through the words that cut deeper than they should have, through the people who took more than they ever gave, through the moments that broke you in places you didn't even know could be broken. And now you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. The reflection stares back, tired, cautious, guarded. And you wonder, where did I go? But the truth is, you're still in there, buried beneath the rubble of what they did. Buried beneath your silence, your survival, your smile that hides the scars. You didn't lose yourself. You locked yourself away to stay safe. And now it's time. Time to peel back the layers and remember who you were before they made you forget your worth. That person deserves a second chance. Not just at love, not just at life, but at freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from pretending, freedom to be whole again. You weren't always this quiet. You weren't always this numb. There was a time when you walked into rooms and brought warmth. A time when you loved with both hands open, never once worrying about being hurt. But somewhere along the way, love became survival, relationships turned into battles, and every connection came with a question mark. You began walking on eggshells, wondering what version of them would show up. You started measuring your words, shrinking your presence, editing your emotions to keep the peace. That's not love, that's endurance. And the longer you stayed in survival mode, the more disconnected you became from your spirit. Your joy turned into performance. Your kindness became currency. And now, even when they're gone, you still carry the habit of hiding. But hear me, you are not what happened to you. You are not the trauma you absorbed or the silence you used to cope. Deep inside, that light is still flickering, waiting for you to turn toward it. You don't need anyone's permission to be full again. You just need the courage to stop apologizing for your voice, your strength, your softness. Everything they made you bury is exactly what makes you powerful. There was a time when you danced without waiting for a reason, when you sang without worrying about who was listening, when you looked at yourself in the mirror and didn't immediately search for flaws. That version of you was unfiltered, unashamed, untouched by the weight of emotional manipulation and conditional love. You didn't question your worth because someone else couldn't see it. You didn't shrink your magic to fit into someone else's comfort zone. But when you gave your heart to the wrong hands, they didn't just mishandle it. They made you believe it was your fault. They broke things inside you and blamed you for the mess. And slowly you started dimming, smiling less, laughing quieter, dressing safer, trusting slower. And the worst part, you thought that was maturity. But it wasn't growth. It was grief. Grieving the parts of you that once came so naturally. The world convinced you to trade your boldness for belonging. But the truth is, you were never too much. They were just too small to hold someone like you. It's time to return to the fire, to the fullness, to the you who never needed fixing, just freedom. It's hard, isn't it? Trying to show up every day with a brave face when inside you're still carrying stories no one knows about. The nights you cried alone, the mornings you woke up hoping to feel different, the days you looked in the mirror and wished to feel anything at all. But even in all that pain, you kept going. That speaks volumes. Even when the voices in your head told you you were broken beyond repair, you didn't give up on yourself. That alone makes you powerful. But now it's time for more than survival. Now it's time to live. To stop measuring your days by how little you cried and start measuring them by how deeply you laughed. To stop defining your strength by how much you can endure and start defining it by how deeply you can feel. You don't need to keep proving your resilience through pain. Your softness is not a weakness. Your vulnerability is not a liability. Rediscovering who you were before the damage doesn't mean erasing what you've been through. It means owning your story without letting it own you. You're allowed to rewrite your ending. You're allowed to take up space in your own healing. There was a girl, a boy, a soul inside you once who believed anything was possible, who believed love was safe, who believed people meant what they said and that forever was real. That soul hasn't died. It's just been hidden, covered by layers of disappointment, masked by the need to protect yourself. But sometimes protection becomes a prison. You build walls so high that not even your own light can escape. And then you sit there wondering why you feel so disconnected. But healing isn't about staying safe. Healing is about becoming whole. It's about revisiting the places where you lost pieces of yourself and reclaiming them, one broken shard at a time. It's about looking at your scars and saying, this is where it hurt, but this is also where I healed. It's remembering that you are not your shame. You are not your silence. You are the voice that rose from it. You are the hope that stayed. You are the warrior that walked through fire and still found the strength to believe again. So stop trying to be who the world expects you to be. Be who you were before the world convinced you to hide. There is a sacred strength in choosing to heal, in saying this pain will not define me. Because hurt people may hurt others, but healed people change everything. And maybe you've been wondering where to start. Start small. Start by speaking kindly to yourself. Start by unfollowing the pages that trigger your wounds. Start by listening to music that brings your soul back to life. Start by taking walks and remembering how the air feels on your skin. You don't need a grand plan, you need presence. Because the version of you that existed before the heartbreak, before the betrayal, was present. They lived. They hoped. They believed. And every time you choose healing over bitterness, every time you speak light over yourself instead of judgment, you're bringing that version of you back. You are returning to joy, not fake, filtered, the kind that isn't dependent on who stayed or who left, the kind that grows from within. And as you start watering that joy again, you'll see you never lost yourself. You just went quiet for a while. But now it's time to speak again, to live again, to be again. There are parts of you that only bloom in peace, parts that got silenced in chaos. You might not even realize how much of your soul had to go dormant just to survive. You adapted. You became what was needed to keep the peace, to avoid another outburst, to protect your heart. But in that process, you also silenced your passions. You ignored your intuition. You abandoned the parts of you that once made you feel alive. Healing invites those parts back. It welcomes your curiosity. It reignites your creativity. It stirs up your wonder. You begin remembering what it feels like to dream without fear, to rest without guilt, to exist without performance. And slowly, you realize you were never broken. You were buried, but the ground that once held your pain now becomes the soil for your rebirth. You begin choosing yourself not out of selfishness, but out of sacred necessity. You start saying no, not out of anger, but out of alignment. And every choice that honors your healing is a homecoming. A return to the version of you who never needed permission to shine, just space to do so. That space is yours now. Every time you betray your spirit to please someone else, you drift further from the version of you that once felt whole. You start dressing for their approval, speaking for their comfort, shrinking for their control. That's not living. That's performing. And you weren't born to perform, you were born to be, fully, freely, fiercely. You were created with a voice for a reason, and somewhere in the echoes of who you used to be is a whisper that says, I miss you. That's your soul calling you back home, back to the girl who ran barefoot through grass, back to the boy who sang off key without shame, back to the spirit that didn't question whether it was too much. Your essence doesn't need fixing. It needs permission. Permission to re-enter the room without apology. Permission to say no without explanation. Permission to speak even when your voice shakes. Healing is not about being perfect. It's about being present. And when you show up as your truest self, the world around you shifts because you're no longer bending to fit in. You're standing tall to belong to yourself. That's the greatest comeback there is. You may not remember the exact moment you started losing pieces of yourself, but your soul does. It remembers every time you swallowed your truth. Every time you stayed quiet to keep someone else comfortable. Every time you chose being liked over being honest. And now you wonder why your smile feels heavy, why your energy feels drained. But listen, it's not because you're broken. It's because you're exhausted from living outside yourself. Healing means finally coming back inside, sitting with your own soul, listening to what you actually feel, not what you've been told to feel. And in that stillness, something beautiful happens. You begin to hear the voice that was buried. You begin to recognize your own rhythm again. You realize that the love you were seeking in others, it always lived inside you. They just made you forget. But you don't need them to remember. You need you. You need your own hand reaching for yourself. Your own eyes looking back with compassion. Your own voice saying, I got you. That's how you return. Not by fixing the past, but by finally choosing yourself in the present. So here you are, alive, breathing, a little bruised but not broken, a little shaken but not shattered. And despite everything you've endured, the disappointments, the abandonment, the heartbreaks, you're still here. That alone makes you a miracle. So give yourself credit, not just for surviving, but for staying soft, for not letting the pain turn you bitter, for still believing in light even after sitting in the dark. You didn't give up on your healing, and that makes you powerful beyond measure. The world will try to convince you that who you were is gone forever, but I promise you, every laugh, every dream, every spark, it's still in you, waiting, longing, ready to rise. You don't need anyone to give you back what you lost, because the truth is what was yours never left. It just waited for you to believe again. So believe. Not in the person who hurt you, not in the life that broke you, but in the spirit that kept you going. You are not your damage. You are your decision to rebuild. Stronger, softer, freer. And that rebuilding starts right here, right now, with the beautiful decision to rediscover who you were and who you still are. There are moments in life when people enter our world, and for a while we believe they were meant to stay. We believe the bond is unbreakable, that the love or connection we share is built to last. But somewhere along the way, things change. People leave, the love fades, the connection weakens, and we're left standing wondering what happened, what we did wrong, or why it hurt so much. But hear this truth today. God didn't let them break you. He let them exit you. It's not a rejection of you. It's a divine removal. You see, not every person who enters your life is meant to stay forever. Some come to teach you something, some come to test you, and some come to show you the strength that you never knew you had. But when their time is up, when their purpose is fulfilled, God, in his wisdom, will step in and create the space for them to leave. It might hurt. It might be hard to understand, but it's not the end. It's a redirection, a new beginning, a shift in the plan that God has for you. He didn't let them break you. He let them exit because he's preparing you for something greater, for someone better, for a future that's built on your strength, not on their presence. The pain of someone walking away can feel like the earth is shifting beneath your feet. The loss may feel overwhelming, as if a part of you has been torn away. It's natural to grieve the loss of a relationship, the absence of someone who once mattered. But remember, God doesn't waste pain. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you've spent wondering what went wrong is a part of the healing process that will make you stronger. God is not in the business of breaking his children. He's in the business of preparing them. Sometimes the people who hurt us, the people who leave us, are just part of a bigger plan. They may be the ones who push us to grow, who push us to let go of old patterns, to rise higher than we ever thought we could. We don't always understand why things happen the way they do. But God sees what we cannot. He knows that in their departure, there is something far better waiting for us. He's not punishing us. He's protecting us. And in that protection, he's showing us that we are capable of standing on our own, of trusting in his plan, of believing that our story doesn't end with their exit. It begins there. You may feel as though the world is crumbling around you as they walk away. But let me tell you this, their exit was never a reflection of your worth. It was simply a moment in time, part of the bigger picture that you may not yet fully see. You are not defined by who stays or who goes. You are defined by how you rise after the storm, how you heal after the hurt, how you trust again after the betrayal. It's hard to accept in the moment, but God removes people from our lives to make room for better things, things that align with his purpose for us. The people who leave, no matter how hard it may seem, are often the ones who would have kept us from the things God has planned for us. Maybe they were holding us back from stepping into our destiny. Maybe they were distracting us from what truly mattered. But God, in his infinite wisdom, knows exactly what we need. And sometimes what we need is the strength to let go, the courage to walk away from something or someone that is no longer serving our highest good. Their departure is not a setback. It's a setup for something better. When someone exits your life, it's not always because you were not enough. In fact, you were more than enough for them. But perhaps you were just too much for their limited vision. Sometimes the person who walks away from you wasn't ready for the person you were becoming, wasn't able to see the greatness within you, wasn't willing to grow alongside you. And that's okay. God didn't let them break you. He let them exit you because you were meant for more. You were meant for someone who can match your energy, your drive, your love, and your dreams. Not everyone can handle the person you're becoming. Not everyone is capable of seeing your potential, but God sees it. God knows exactly what you're capable of, even when others can't see it. And he knows that you deserve to be with people who recognize your value, who encourage your growth, who uplift your spirit. So when someone walks away, remember that it's not about you being less than. It's about them being unable to handle the greatness that's rising within you, and that's a blessing in disguise. The hardest part about someone leaving is often not the fact that they're gone, but the emptiness that comes with their absence, the silence that follows, the questions that linger. But that emptiness isn't a void. It's a space being prepared for something new. Sometimes we hold on to people, relationships, or situations because we fear what might happen if we let go. We fear the unknown, the discomfort of being alone, the uncertainty of what's next. But God never intended for you to be stuck in a place of uncertainty. He's always working behind the scenes to bring you closer to his purpose for your life. The moment you let go, the moment you release that person who no longer fits into your future, you create this space for God to fill you with new hope, new opportunities, and new connections. It's not about erasing the past. It's about creating room for your future. Trust that God knows what he's doing. His timing is perfect. The person who left was never meant to be a permanent fixture in your life. And God will fill that space with something, someone, and a purpose far greater than you could have ever imagined. It's important to remember that every person who enters your life comes with a purpose. Some people are meant to stay, to build with you, to walk alongside you for a lifetime, but not everyone is meant for that journey. Some people are meant to teach you a lesson, to help you grow, and then to leave when their part is complete. When people exit your life, it's not always because you did something wrong. It's because they fulfilled their role in your story, and now it's time for them to go. The pain you feel from their exit is real, but it's also temporary. What you will learn from the experience will last a lifetime. You'll learn to trust God's timing. You'll learn that not every relationship is forever, but that doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. You'll learn to value yourself enough to walk away from what isn't serving you, and to trust that God will bring you what you need when the time is right. Their departure doesn't diminish your worth. It's simply the next chapter in your journey, and God is guiding you to what's next. You may have loved deeply, invested fully, and sacrificed for the relationship, but the truth is, not every person is capable of reciprocating that love in the way you deserve. And that's not a reflection of your love or your worth. It's simply a mismatch in timing, energy, or purpose. Sometimes God lets people exit our lives to protect us from further pain, from more hurt, or from the feeling of being unappreciated. You may not see it now, but in time you will understand why that person had to leave. God's plan for your life is far greater than any relationship, any connection, any moment in time. He will never leave you stranded. He will never abandon you. He will always provide exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. And sometimes that means removing the people who no longer align with the path he has set for you. Their exit is not a reflection of your inability to hold on to them, but rather a sign that God is preparing you for something better, something greater, something that will fulfill you in ways you never imagined. God is always working in the background of our lives, orchestrating every detail with precision and care. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't allow things to happen without purpose. And when someone exits your life, it's not because he's punishing you or abandoning you. It's because he's making space for something better. He's guiding you toward the people, the opportunities, and the experiences that are in alignment with his plan for you. You don't have to understand it right now. You don't have to know the whole story, but trust that God is always working for your good, and every exit, every loss, every change is simply a redirection. It's leading you closer to the life you were meant to live. So when someone leaves, don't fight it. Don't cling to the past. Let go. Trust God. And know that he's got something incredible waiting for you on the other side. And in the midst of the hurt, in the midst of the confusion, and in the midst of the pain, know this: God will never let you go. When people leave, when they walk away, he is right there, holding you, lifting you up, and carrying you through. He is your constant. He is your foundation. And he will never leave you or forsake you. His love for you is unconditional, unwavering, and eternal. So don't focus on the people who leave. Don't let their exit define your worth. Focus on the one who remains, the one who will never turn his back on you, the one who is always guiding you to where you need to be. Trust his plan. Trust his timing. And remember, God didn't let them break you. He let them exit because he has something far greater in store for you. Keep walking, keep believing, keep trusting in his plan. You are never alone. Sometimes in life, we face moments that feel like the end of the world. When people we thought would be there forever walk out of our lives, it can feel like a part of us is lost. The pain, the confusion, the sense of betrayal, they all weigh heavily on us. But in reality, it's not the end. It's simply the beginning of a new chapter. God didn't let them break you. He allowed them to exit your life because he's preparing you for something greater. Because removing what no longer serves you to make room for his purpose, his plan, and the person you are destined to become. The relationships that end, the people who leave, they are part of a bigger picture that we might not always understand in the moment. But we are called to trust in the process, to trust in his divine timing. God sees what we cannot. He knows the plans he has for us, and sometimes those plans involve the removal of people who, although they were once important, are no longer aligned with the life we're meant to live. When someone exits your life, it doesn't diminish your worth. Instead, it's a chance to rediscover who you truly are, to reconnect with your purpose, and to embrace the growth that is waiting for you. While it may feel painful now, this is the moment when you start to realize that your worth is not dependent on who stays or who leaves, but on the strength and resilience you have inside of you. It's about reclaiming your power and trusting that with God's guidance, you will heal and rise higher than ever before. It's important to remember that the pain of someone leaving is not a reflection of your failure or inadequacy. Rather, it's a reflection of the fact that not everyone is meant to be part of your journey forever. Some people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lesson. And when their time is up, it's not a sign of rejection. It's a sign that God has something better for you. Through this process, you may experience growth in ways you never expected. You may find that you are stronger, more resilient, and more capable of handling what comes next. The people who exit your life have played their part, but their departure creates space for new relationships, new opportunities, and new blessings that align with your purpose. So embrace the change. Embrace the discomfort. Know that God is always working in the background, leading you to where you need to be. Trust his plan. Trust that what you've lost is only making way for what's coming. You are not alone in this journey. God is with you, guiding you every step of the way, and he will never leave you or forsake you. As you walk forward, remember that your worth is not defined by the people who come and go, but by the strength you've shown in the face of adversity. You are resilient. You are capable. You are loved. And you are on the path to something far greater than you can imagine. Keep your head up, keep moving forward, and trust that the best is yet to come. Thank you for listening. May God bless you abundantly now and always.